And they were telling me they were in a band once. They were talking about that scene where you and Kyle are talking about. They said they had that exact moment where they, somebody went, yeah, this is stupid, this is bullshit, this isn't practical. Did you guys get that from anybody else?
Blake told me that exact same thing when he was here.
I talked to that critic who came to the screening, and he talked about how the problems in the movie didn't necessarily pertain to like the problems he had with his generation. I thought that was really interesting. And then other adults I talked to said that they had gone through the same thing when they were growing up. I personally only got really positive feedback.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of people come up and say oh, I thought it was just going to be one of those like, oh, my friends made a movie and I got to go watch it thing, but everyone said they were just blown away.
Yeah.
They didn't think it was going to be that high level of...
I was surprised. Were you guys surprised?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean that as an insult to Brendan's previous work, but this is head and shoulders above anything you've done.
Yeah.
One thing Fergie brought up, actually, that he really liked, and I didn't even notice it really until he said it, but when Mike and I are in the car after seeing Marvin, or Brendan, he thought, he's like, wow, this is all wrapping up so quick, like, what's going on? And then I say that, and he's like, oh, so they actually, like, kind of realize, like, how just abrupt this is ending and how, like, the impact of it. And I thought that was a neat observation.
That's always interesting when people make observations about the movie that you didn't even think about while shooting it. That's one of the coolest things.
And a few of my friends from the university even said they laughed a lot more than they were expecting.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that because I really thought people were just waiting to laugh, and then they get killed in the second act when there was no laughter.
No, people really enjoyed it. There was a lot of really funny moments.
There were, yeah.
Oh, I was surprised.
Made it a little lighter and a little.
And I thought the transition from the lighter beginning to how it kind of becomes heavier, I think it's a subtle transition, so I don't think people felt jarred by that at all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I didn't see that much when we were filming, just because of how sporadic it was.
Yeah.
But then seeing the movie, it was so light, then it just really started to take a turn.
I mean, I was even surprised with the hospital scene. I had never seen
movie
tons of parts.
I was like, where
movie,
did you film that?
Yeah, I was like, yeah,
it was so real looking.
It was
yeah, it was real looking.
Yeah, it blew me away. I even had I was talking to my friend from the university afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I really wasn't expecting much, but I really related to the characters, and I was like, oh, which characters? And he's like, all of them, combined. So it's kind of interesting, people can take bits and pieces from everybody, and everyone can relate to it, I think.
Part of what I was worried about when I first read the script, I shouldn't say I was worried, but it was a reservation I kind of had, is that maybe the movie would be too focused on how our characters reacted to a central theme. But I felt like when you watch the movie, you get a lot more about the characters and just them as people, as opposed to their attitudes about that one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking about that. It's an accidental thing to the budget. We couldn't see exactly what was going on in the city, because we couldn't show a lot. Mm-hmm. But it just ended up being you guys reacting to it, and you guys were so good at reacting to what wasn't there and using your imaginations that you guys really made it believable, and you made the audience feel like you guys had made mistakes, and that it was
I think the fact that there's so many scenes of us three together really shows how different we react to it as well.
For sure, yeah. And they're all really different characters too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's an interesting protagonist, too, because although he has, these heroic qualities, I think he's a really flawed guy.
Absolutely.
He has almost, anger issues in some scenes, and he doesn't really know what he's doing.
About that, when I beat up your brother or whatever in that scene, the Corona-swilling bastard, you made it look so one-sided. I don't know if it's just the choice of angles. Boom, it looks like I just laid the guy out, and especially later when I'm leaning against the wall and Daniel's still lying there.
Oh, yeah. I was terrified that somebody was going to watch and go, that is fucking despicable.
Yeah, that's what I thought that was interesting, though. You don't see that type of character very often, but it worked.
I was surprised people didn't go, holy fucking shit. That's why is he flipping out? Mm-hmm. I think it's... And it's not a very well-directed scene in that way, where you don't... In the scenes before it, you don't really get a good chance to see John building. Mike's shot choices are very poor in the scene beforehand. Me and Mike talked about how I should have shot closer so you could see John. And, just get better looks at his faces and a better chance to see him building on it. But really, I don't know. There's something about that scene where people are able to suspend their disbelief and just go, okay, this is what he's doing, and I can understand.
Yeah,
I wonder why that is.
Yeah, snaps. That's interesting that people respond to that scene the way they do. It's almost a little bit jarring within the context of the rest of the movie.
Not as many people noticed it or brought it up as I thought they would, but I noticed it because we when we filmed it, anyways, we had a real, turn each other over, and it was a lot more two-sided,
and the character up to that point seems very articulate and sensitive. So for people, you do see the fact that he has that rougher edge, but to see this type of guy just absolutely lose it.
But then that's what happens in real life too. Like, you build it up, and then you just finally snap.
I guess the news montage. That was really well done.
That was brilliant.
Yeah,
because we hadn't seen a second of that before.
No, and they said some really surprising things.
Yeah, it seemed natural.
It seemed almost like it seemed like a documentary, and even a lot of the dialogue that we say, because of that little montage bit, it seemed like documentary.
For sure.
Just the vibe.
I was surprised with that.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people loved about the movie. Just because of that one
scene.
It captures
And I had reservations about that before, Brandon. You and I talked about.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, remember you were there when we walked in and I was having a conversation. I was trying to convince John that it would be a good idea to just let me go to their houses and just do it on the front steps or at their car or something. He didn't think it would look believable. But I think it's there's a number of surreal moments in the movie that happen that I think people were able to put that kind of literal mindset away and go, this is a movie. This is cinema. This is the language.
Don't you guys find too that with a feature film, you have a lot more to do with your character and a lot more to explore?
Yeah.
And I think people notice that more. I never really got comments specifically about my acting in a movie until this one.
Yeah.
Because.
Well, I mean, because
if you get the chance to change into something.
In a short film, there's the story arc, but in this one, you get the character arcs too.
And they're all very distinct. Right?
Yeah.
I want to touch on something. I got a message from something last night. It was nothing but wonderful things about the film, but she said that she didn't feel that way at all about any of the characters. She was like, "I'm totally content." And I remember when I was watching Cody's interview that he did with Liam. He says he's totally content as well. Do you guys worry that maybe people just content in their situations and at school and work and stuff like that? Are you guys worried at all that we'll end up showing the film to a bunch of people who are actually pretty happy and we've totally missed the mark and people really aren't that bothered by them?
No,
I think the movie attempts to look at these people as individuals as opposed to summarizing a whole culture or subculture. I think that would be dangerous to try and do. And I never felt like the movie would imposed on a whole generation like that. I mean, the title, when you think about the implications of the title, initially you might see it that way, but I think that the tone of the movie is very intimate and very much about these three guys in particular.
Yeah, also, I agree with you, but also I think the majority of people our age don't know what they're doing. People, there is going to be the odd person that is completely content with their life and knows what they want to do and how to do it.
It's a minority, though.
A lot, and a lot of people, they're happy with their job or they're happy doing what they want in school, but even those people seeing the movie, they realize the possibilities and opportunities they have to do something else or just to think about what they're doing. I think that it's still important.
There's more to enjoy to the movie than just not, relating to the three characters. I mean, you can sit down and watch it and still enjoy it. It's funny. It's got a great story act and great characterization. And even if you are happy with yourself, it's hard to deny the massive amount of kids your age, whatever age group you're in, that do feel that way. So you can relate to it at some point. And you haven't always been content. You got to that point where you did find something that you're happy with, but there was that time, I think, for everybody where they had that big question. So
exactly. Not just one person, but probably 3 or 4 people came up to me and said their favorite scene was the one with John and the old lady in the music store.
That was hysterical.
Because they were not only was it so funny, but they said, I've always wanted to do that. Like, if there's one thing in my life, I just want to do that.
It was a bit of a risky scene, too, though.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know how people would react to, like, this young man, like, shouting at this older
nobody
woman.
would ever think to do that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Everyone wishes that they could do that.
Oh, yeah.
And the scenario we've put ourselves in allowed me to do it anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a fun scene.
Growing up in the 60s.
It's really interesting, though. I don't think you see a lot of movies where young adults are written as people. I think a lot of the time they're just written as young adults, and it's almost like it takes on this certain like media persona.
Yeah, they seem very like single-minded. Like, oh, I got to get laid by the end of this movie.
Exactly.
Or I got to get this girl or whatever, and we're.
Yeah,
and I think
the
fact that you did just.
I think only having 2 or 3 female roles in this.
Yeah, it didn't look like you guys were chasing tail.
No,
that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's rare where you get a movie just about 3 young guys talking about things. You don't see that very often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Last time we saw that was Superbad.
And it's not like just humor and like, we do have those days where we just gross each other out.
Yeah, exactly.
Hilarious stuff, but we decided we kept that on the blooper reel, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of people did tell me too that it's by far the most accessible movie that Brendan has done, and I would definitely agree. Yeah. There's no.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of my aims when we did Whodunit in particular were kind of the same. Is just to bring people together with some common theme, and I think I overestimated, how common that the feelings in that film were, as opposed to the ones in this one.
That may have been like a teenage sentiment as well, though. I think that kind of misery and that kind of almost tunnel vision pain is exclusively there when you're in high school or when you're in that time in your life. I don't think many people out of high school can relate to that.
I'm really glad that we did make something that was more accessible. Mm-hmm. Did you guys catch that from the trailer? Like the little bit at the beginning of the trailer, Mike is doing his depressive shtick over the fireplace, which is like something you've seen before, movies, and then it begins with, "That is so depressing."
That was really funny. Yeah.
Did you guys catch that? I was hoping some people would get that.
Even watching the trailer like that, I was like, "Oh no!" And then when John's like, "That's so depressing," like it.
We're not seeing fragments.
What exactly what you're thinking.
Like you've seen the movie and it's like promotion time. How willing are you guys to like take this forward? How much time do you want to spend with it? Because like I was talking to Blaine, and Blaine is very invested in the film in a lot of different ways, and he was talking about keeping it going for like a year, because there's a year's worth of festivals, and there's a year's worth of things to do. Like, is that something you guys want to do at this point in your life? Like, put that much time into a film?
Yeah.
I absolutely do, yeah.
Do it up.
This is our 5th movie together, and before now,
our
really.
3rd.
Yeah.
First.
No, you tell me.
I was in Baby Years.
The second. You had your walk-on in Whodunit.
Yeah, that's true. 3rd, if you count Kevin's movie.
Yeah, that's true.
You reach a point where you finally say, like, you kind of want some recognition. It's not like that's the reason for doing it, but you do want to share it with people, and when you're finally able to, you want to...
With how much time we've all already put into this, especially you, Brendan, but, we were there all together on days that we didn't even have to be in scenes, you want to... we've already invested so much time, why just stop? It's done. Wash your hands of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Let's see how far we can get this. What was it? Was it a bug?
Yeah, it was an ant.
Oh, put it into my Venus flytrap.
Just trying to promote something like after you're done. Like once we were done filming, I was like, oh, now I can relax. But like, no, we shouldn't just do that. And like that's what I'm used to, right? But and even like the gratification is different, because like now we were done and we're like, okay, that's it. But then at the screening, it was like a whole different experience for me, because I was like, it was going to watch a movie. It was like going to the movie theaters. It was just a whole different thing.